folks, you were Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about mixed gender sports teams and some of the issues around that. Now, what got me onto this is there's a shop that I regularly go to, and there's a like a shop assistant, shop clerk that works there, and she recently turned 21. But because I'm there frequently, and she's like the customer service rep, we often end up exchanging pleasantries, and she mentioned, how was your day, and that type of banter. And so she's mentioned that the sports teams that she's involved in. So she's like a D grade soccer player. So they have 1 hour training a week, if that. Often that's called off, and then they have a match most weekends, not every weekend though. And so she's a bit half-assed about it from the sound of it, but anyway, she goes along. It's a girls' team, but she's decided that she wants to be at the elite level. She wants glory and fame and recognition and all this sort of stuff, but she's a D grade player. Now, she's carrying quite a lot of weight, so I can't imagine she could run with any particular speed, which if you're a soccer player kind of is a bit of a handicap. Like, she's not a goalkeeper or something. So anyway, she decided that she wanted to join the men's, not the men's D grade team or C grade, but she wants to go to the men's A grade team. Now, because of the various laws and things that exist and codes now, which are incredibly politically correct, they're supposedly designed to foster inclusion and so on, but they actually have the opposite effect. It's like all affirmative action things. They just drag everything down. But anyway, the men's team, it plays at she admits herself, by the way, plays at a fast pace. They do two nights of training a week, plus they arrive early before the match and do warm-up training and so on. And they're quite sort of committed to having a match every weekend, and they're all very serious about it and so on. Now, she wants to join the men's A grade team. Now, if she was a man, she would have to pass like a fitness test and a competence test. We're not going to have you in the team if you can't meet the standard. But because she's a woman, albeit she's 21, and she's at an age where she could be really fit if she wanted to at the time, but she doesn't. So because she's a woman, they can't say no. So they kind of have to include her. Now, maybe they can make an effort to try and get her to build up her skills and fitness, but again, there's not much they can do. So she doesn't turn up for training, can't be bothered. She doesn't even turn up early for the warm-up, but she expects to be on the field and playing in the team, even though she just can't do it. So I was interested about this, that because she was admitting she's not up to it. So I was, well, why would you do that? Why would you, if you can't keep up, if you can't go for training and do the things that are necessary, and you're not doing anything about your fitness, why would you want to do in a first grade, A grade team? This is amateur, by the way, not A grade paid professional. So I like the idea of so she's getting off on the power of this. She's getting off on the idea that she can force them to accept her because of wokery and affirmative action quotas. Also, I can force, even though I don't meet any of the standards, I can't play for shit, I'm not fit, I don't turn up for training, I follow none of their rules, but I can force them to bow down before me. I'm in charge. I can make them do what I want, and I'm getting off on that power. So it's definitely girl boss power stuff there. But again, she meets none of the criteria. Now, she complained recently that she was again, it's soccer. So she was kicking the ball somewhere there, and she got fair barged, which is part of the game. She got fair barged by a male player. She's outraged by this. Doesn't he know I'm a girl? I'm only half his size. Why would he do that? I'm just No, I wouldn't describe her as a little girl. I think she'd easily be, 165 pounds. So it's not like she's a, 100 pound skinny little waif or something. She's not. She's not fit, but she's pretty chunky build. Um, but she's complaining that why doesn't he make special allowance for me? All these men should slow down to a pace until I feel comfortable at what's happening. They have to do what I want. Those other 10. And so if the coach tries to bench her just to get her the fuck out the way, which he would do for a player that hopeless. I mean, I've played soccer myself. So she can then complain that it's misogyny and it's this and it's that and so on. She's apparently 1/8 Pacific Islander. Not that you'd know it by looking at her. So she can play the racism card as well. Now, she gets off on the power of look how I can disrupt them. Those men, they think they're so good, they're so fit and doing their A-grade stuff. But me, unfit, unable to compete at their level, I can still fuck them up. And I love that power that I can do that. So that really sums up, I think, the attitude of the feminist brigade to a large extent, and the foot soldiers they let loose on this. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last. She's complaining that the coach keeps pestering her that she doesn't turn up for training, and she considers that an outrageous imposition. Why should I have to turn up for training? But and I mentioned, but you want to be in amateur terms, at least you want to be an elite team. You want to be in the A-grade elite team. If you want to do that, shouldn't you at least be trying to be fit and play at that level, at the same level of competence that they have? Why should I do it? Just because they're men? Just because they're men, I want to make me do it? And I wouldn't describe her as a raging feminist. She's just some low IQ punk who's getting off on the power of it all because she's seen like she's quite childlike in many ways. She's just got this view that she's got the opportunity to do what, I can fuck them up. I can make them do what I want. I enjoy that sort of power. I have the power to disrupt and destroy and bring down and drag down, and I like that. Now, looking at sports overall, governments, certainly in Australia at all levels, have aggressively gone to all sports clubs that are all sort of men, and particularly if it's straight white men, have gone to all sports clubs and given them money on the condition that they become woke and equity and and they also coordinate with education departments. So they'll go to schools and say, you know what, you girls, you should go to the local judo club, or you should go to the local volleyball club. So wherever they find particularly white men clustered in any sort of thing, the governments have investigated that, singled them out, and forced equity, not asked or request, forced equity on them. Now they give them money, which is the lure, that's the bait to sort of bring them in. And once they're in the orbit of the politically correct goons, they then force this equity upon them. But A, they'll lose the money if they don't do it, and B, they'll be dragged into court for some woke bullshit fucking thing that they make up. So and they go to considerable lengths. I've sort of been involved in martial arts for quite a while, and they go to considerable lengths to do this and engage in all sorts of optics sort of theatre type management as these people heavily had to rely on. And so, I mean, here's one example. There was quite a small girl. She was like 14 or 15, but she was maybe 5 foot tall, so she looked younger. And she was what was she? Judo or jiu-jitsu? It was judo in her case, and she was like the national champion for the 100-pound weight limit, girls' national champion for the 100-pound. So she was very good, in her class and everything like that. So they paired her up in a mixed gender tournament where they got, wait for this, I mean, I just want you to wait for this. They got these 10 or 11-year-old boys, all of whom had some sort of physical handicap. Their motor skills were well below the average. So they got these boys and they put her in a judo tournament with those boys who had a special needs, judo school for them. And of course she won, and they invited the media along to go, well, look, girls, girl boss, look at this girl power. Look at this fucking girl power. Now, because she was so small in the photograph, they all looked about the same age, but they didn't say that she's like the 15-year-old national champion. And these boys are just beginners and they're handicapped. None of that was mentioned. They just do the girl power that she won every match and came first in the tournament. But it was a fake tournament. It was just a bullshit tournament. So they engage in all sorts of chicanery in this regard. Now, I'll give you some sort of idea. There was a girl. She was, I don't know, she's like 19, 20, something like that, and she came third in the national judo championships, and she was also a champion weightlifter. And was also the state champion women's wrestling champion. So she, by any measure, she was an accomplished athlete, and let's not take anything away from her. She's a big girl. She weighed like 220 pounds, above average height, very strong and all this sort of stuff. And so she was in a warm-up tournament. And girls that want to compete in martial arts, girls that want to compete at the elite level must practice with men in order to get that, just that extra sharpness and extra capability, extra cardio, extra strength, and just compete at a higher level and just be, if they want to. And you can see the difference in tournaments, girls that practice with men and girls that don't. The girls that practice with men always have the edge and pretty much always win the tournaments. And out of the top sort of 10 competitors in certainly the women's tournament, as distinct from the girls' tournaments, there'd be 70 to 80% lesbians. So coming back to the this girl who was like third in the national championships, or this young woman, wrestling champion, all that sort of stuff. In the warm-up tournament, she was up against a guy who was close to being a beginner. He'd probably been doing judo for, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, somewhere around that. And he's a pretty fit guy, but he was in his mid-50s. In good condition for his age anyway. And so he's her opponent for part of this warm-up tournament. And he doesn't clean the floor with her, but he beats her handily. I mean, it's not like it's a close run thing at all. And he doesn't even compete in tournaments. He's just an ordinary guy, but he still beats her relatively easily. It wasn't like it was a pushover, but relatively easily. I was there watching it. So there's a huge difference in the capacity. So why they want to mix the sports isn't to create equity or anything like that. It's to drag down the men. So the men have to slow down. The men have to accommodate this. And this is the game they play in all sorts of things. You insert one trans person or one lesbian or one gay person into an organization of 1 million people, and say the whole 1 million people all have to now change their behavior and lower their standards as part of the affirmative action and race and gender quotas and so on. So it's effectively demanded of all these sports clubs that they have to have 50% female, the martial arts in this case, 50% female, and they have to be 50% non-white, and it's being forced on them. There's nothing organic or natural about it. If it was only organic and natural, then it would be 99% white male. But any white male gathering, it's now globalist policy, certainly in the Western world, worldwide, that no gathering of straight white males for any reason, any cause, can be allowed. It must be disrupted, and this is, of course, what they're doing. And this is all part of it. But it's interesting to note this young girl. It was spite and envy that was driving her, not any idea of equality or anything like that, equity. It's spite and envy that's driving it, and I think that's a big part of what goes on in this area of so-called social justice. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.